Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, we're back again this week. John Butler will be joining us in a little while because the first half of the show, we're going to spend some time talking about high school soccer. And up first, we have Ken Mahung, the Glasgow Scotties head coach. Before we get to any questions for you, Coach, just want to let folks know that Governor Beshear said in his daily briefing that he's not going to reject the KHSAA's plan to go ahead and start fall sports. Obviously, he's been conservative in his views on trying to contain the virus and that kind of thing, and recommended that school be delayed till September 28th. And some districts went online only, and some are started today. And we'll see how that all pans out. But as of right now, we are going to have fall sports based on the plan that the KHSAA passed on Thursday. And so that means, Coach Mahung, you officially get to start practice today. I guess you really already started, didn't you?
We did.
All right. Because you like to go in the morning and go ahead and get it out of the way.
That's correct.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about, so the season's been delayed a couple of weeks as far as getting started and that kind of thing, and practices have basically been delayed a month, a little over a month really. But you have been doing your workouts, is that right? That's correct. Tell me a little bit about what you were able to accomplish during the workouts.
We talked about that this morning, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Because they know we only work out in the mornings.
Okay.
And it's real early, 6 o'clock.
Right.
And I finally told them today, I asked them, why do you think we work out in the mornings? Mm-hmm. And they gave very good reasons, like making sure that they build their stamina, And then one kid said discipline, and said exactly. Mm-hmm. Said, see, we want, if you can build discipline by waking up 5:30 in the morning and then getting to work out and then sweat and work hard and then go home and not look for an excuse not to be at workout, then we know that we have a committed player.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing that we learned. We found out who our committed players are. Apart from that, there wasn't much we could do. So we just did passing and crossing, that type of, skill development. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing about soccer versus some other sports is that a player can work on their skills and do it in that kind of environment. You can work on skills in soccer that some other sports you may not be able to work on.
Correct.
Because a lot of soccer is your individual ability with your feet and that kind of thing.
That's correct. We did a lot of footwork as well.
Yeah. So were your workouts pretty well attended?
No, they weren't. We had total between middle school through high school. What are our numbers like? She's my administrator.
Right.
So
About 25.
about 25 total.
Okay.
And that's middle school and high school combined.
Right. But I guess part of the workout thing is that there's probably a challenge for some of the players to get there to start with. That kind of changes once school's in session, because a lot of times the players are already at school, and then I know you do your workouts at the soccer complex, but still just the environment around coming to the practices and the workouts probably changes. So did you feel like this on your first day that it improved some, your attendance?
Same numbers.
Oh, yeah? So that means you know who's committed to the program.
Exactly. Like I said, that's what we learned today. Yeah. Nobody new showed up today. The exact same kids that have been there the whole time.
Well, and so that brings the question, what kind of season do you expect to have then? I mean, you had some key players returning. I think your top 3 goal scorers are back from last year. Is that correct?
Well, we have one that we wonder if he's going to be there. He hasn't shown up for any workouts.
Gotcha.
So, not sure. Not sure what team we'll have, but I know that we're going to have committed players. Mm-hmm. We already have that.
Does that kind of leave you? Does that mean that some players that maybe you would have thought coming into the season you weren't going to depend on are now going to get an opportunity?
Well, I never think about any player that joins our program. We depend on them. Mm-hmm. So we've never looked at any players, this one is more important than this one. I know, that being the father of your son. we look at the mentality of the individual. And we don't care if somebody's been there 3 years and they've worked hard, they still have to earn their spot. For example, we're having tryout on Wednesday.
Is that right?
And if they're not good enough, they're not going to play. They won't even be on the team. That's, even though we don't have the numbers, that's the way it is. You know, because we want people to identify themselves as, I want to be part of this program. I'm serious about it. I want to help the program grow.
So you mentioned that it's that the numbers 25 is middle school through high school, but
That's right.
how many of them are high school players that are basically showing up then?
Coach Fabiola, one of my assistants, and Coach Crow, they counted this morning. Even the boys counted. And total, we have between 12 and 13 possibly varsity players, because again, they try out on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And if we don't accept all of them, then we might have exactly 11 players for varsity. And Coach Fabiola already told them, well, think about it. You don't have to worry about playing time.
Right.
So, and we're serious about that, you know?
Yeah. But I guess with your system as well, I mean, one of the things, you've got the kind of constant motion going on, but at the same time, you emphasize ball movement over, as a way to move players
That's
more or
correct.
less. And so that probably changes the conditioning equation versus if you were playing a long ball style of soccer.
Exactly, it does.
So I would imagine, though, that your expectations for the season don't change no matter how many players you have out there.
That's correct. Because, again, it's not about the quantity. It's about the quality. And when we say quality, we're not talking about whether or not somebody can score goals or whether they have good footwork. We mean quality in mindset. Is this somebody that will give 100% for the team? We've had kids in the past that didn't have a lot of skill, but they worked hard. They do whatever we asked them to do. They hustle for the team, and they developed and did extremely well. And that's all we're looking for. So we get 11 of those,
right?
We're fine. We're set.
We were talking before we came on air about your schedule a little bit. You mentioned that you really haven't entered any data on the schedule.
That's
for
correct.
KHSAA.
I haven't.
But it says here that you open September the 8th against Greenwood.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And that's a pretty tough opening, isn't it?
It depends on how you look at it. For us,
Yeah.
it's Greenwood. We look forward to playing them, and hopefully we'll beat them.
Right.
Our kids, when I took over this program, our kids, whenever they heard I'm not Barron County, I'm Bowling Green, they get scared. Now, when we hear Bowling Green, the kids are like, "Yeah, we're ready." It's a different mentality. So no, we look forward to the game. We definitely, last year we did terribly at the regionals.
Yeah.
And it showed because our goalkeeper, we just took him. He was one of our forwards,
Right.
and converted him to a goalkeeper because of. Our starting goalkeeper was injured. Our backup was injured, so we need a goalkeeper. We had to put him in there, and, and it showed. But we've trained him now,
Yeah.
and he's ready. So, yes, we got whipped last year, and they could have mercied us in the first 20 minutes. And I told the coach because we're friends, and he said, "Coach, I wouldn't do that to you." I said, "I know you didn't do it, but you could have." That's how nice he was. Yet still, we'll look forward to playing them. We're not going to use that as an excuse. We use that as motivation to go out there and show them what we can do as a team. So we don't care who we play.
Right. Well, and another thing that does work out for you guys this year is Glasgow's back as an All-A school. So you guys get to play in the All-A tournament, which
That's
I know
right.
was one of the things that you kind of put an emphasis on because it was an opportunity to compete and get to a state tournament and get the kids kind of acclimated to that expectation. Is
That's
that
correct.
still kind of the way you look at that
Oh,
tournament?
yes, most definitely.
And then, so you on the 12th you have Russellville, and that's going to be opening of that All-A. Russellville's a younger program, but they were a little bit scrappy, I believe, last year.
Oh, yes, they weren't nice to us, and I mean in a good way.
Yeah.
We found out that their head coach was Glasgow alum, and after that game, he told us, I told my boys, if nothing else, we have to beat Glasgow. So they were fired up when they played us. And
Right.
Now, the worst you can do is play a team that has that rivalry mentality, right?
Yeah.
That's like us playing Barron County. I mean, you never know who's going to win because it's just scrappy, really scrappy.
Yeah.
And they went at us. It was interesting. It was an interesting game.
And I noticed that you're also doing a Scotty Classic. That's toward the end of the month. I guess you guys are you still planning on doing that?
Oh, yes. The Scottish Classic is still on. Mhm.
Okay.
We have the middle school program, our girls program, and a boys program involved in that.
Okay. Okay. So you're going to do that over a couple of days or 3 days there?
Couple days.
Okay. And another, I guess, interesting wrinkle to this season is Allen County Scottsville finally will have a varsity soccer program.
Yes.
And now, is that going to be in a district game this year?
They are in our district.
Okay.
The district has been realigned.
Yeah.
It's now Barron County, Allen County, and us. That's it in our district.
Okay. So Monroe's not in there either?
No. They formed a whole new district for them.
Okay.
Monroe, Clinton, and Russell
Gotcha.
County.
Well, that was kind of interesting last year because right before the season started, suddenly Clinton County didn't have a boys soccer team.
Exactly.
Which was a little bit odd because
it was
they'd been pretty good up to that point.
Yeah, to go from there so competitive and then just disappear.
Yeah.
That was a shocker.
Let's just talk a little bit about some other things about your program. Explain to me a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to soccer.
Oh, okay. Well, I know that. We'll put it this way. As we said earlier, every player is very important. The way we play. Everyone is an important cog. In what they call the wheel. Do I have that right?
Right.
So we look to find the strength of a player, and then we build on that. So we might have a kid that just knows how to cross, and so we find a way to utilize the strength. So when that player comes in, he knows exactly what he's supposed to do. We don't spend time on the weakness of a player because that doesn't do us any good. That's the first thing. The next thing is we want to make sure that every player is a team player. You help your teammate. You don't put your teammate down. We're all on an equal level. Nobody is more special than the other one. So on our team, you'll never find someone not playing defense or someone so special that everybody works for him and then they give him the ball. We don't know. We don't play that. The way we play, anybody can attack and everybody plays defense. And that's what we call total football.
Right. And that's I guess it's becoming a more prominent philosophy in this area because I think that's kind of the way Warren Central plays.
Yes.
and Bowling Green and the schools over in Warren County. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, the schools in Louisville, they play that way. Most of them play that way as well.
And I think what people don't, when they watch your team play, I think sometimes what happens is they're not quite aware of what you guys are attempting to accomplish, versus, I mean, if you see a guy sprinting down the field and somebody's kicking as far as they can, they can visibly see what's going
That's
on
correct.
with that particular situation.
Yes.
So whenever it comes to trying to set up goal scoring and that kind of stuff, how do you approach that situation?
Well, the philosophy of total football is that we don't have set plays. Okay, we don't, because everything is determined by the player. We always tell them, we're your coach, we don't play the game. So we give you the fundamentals. We give you what you need so you can make the decision that you feel is the best for any situation you're in. We never know what the player is going to do. And people say, oh, wow, Coach Mahung, he taught them. And no, I didn't. They get out there and they start doing something. I'm like, sometimes we're in the silence. I say, did you see that?
Right.
And so we get surprised when we see the kids make a decision of some kind. However, we do give them the foundation so they have the confidence so that when they see a situation, they have so many different options, then they choose the option. They decide what the option is that will work best for them.
Right.
So we will never tell a player that was a bad decision because we're not at that viewpoint that player has. From where we're standing, it looks like it's a bad decision. But how do we know what that player is seeing from where they are? We don't. So our players run their team. It's their team. It's their decision. They play the game. All we do is we become cheerleaders once the game starts.
Yeah. Do you still get out there and work out with them?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's a requirement for all of our coaches. All of our coaches, we're involved with the kids because total football is about showing them what to do. As you know, we don't talk much. We don't give lectures out there we get the ball. I said, this is how you're supposed to do it. Like this morning, we're running our warm-up, or a real warm-up for the first time. We couldn't do it because of social distancing. So we finally ran it, and Coach Crow just got out there. Coach Crow is in his 60s, right? And he got out there, and he said, okay, this is what you do. And he took off sprinting like, wow. He showed it to them, they got it, and then they started doing it. So everything we do is we show. We have to show them.
Now, you said you're going to have your tryouts on Wednesday?
On Wednesday and Thursday. We always go 2 days.
Yeah. Do you still hand out your report card and whatnot?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. You remember that?
Yeah. Actually, I thought that was a really good thing. That was one of my favorite things I think I ever saw you do, because it seemed to me to set a guideline for a player to know what to improve.
That's correct.
And if they don't know what to improve explicitly, then they won't work on it. And then once you hand them that guideline, if they're not going to work on it, then that's kind of an indication they're not as interested as they seem to be.
You've got it. And that's the whole philosophy behind it. It's not a report card to say you're bad. It's something that tells you, here's what you should work on if you want to improve. And you saw it's very detailed, isn't it? You know, it's very easy to understand. You know, okay, this is here. Okay, work on this. And that, we'll be giving that out.
Okay. One last, I guess, question for you. Do you have some specific expectations of what you guys would like to accomplish this season?
Every year, our biggest goal is to go to state and win state, Class A and KHSAA state.
Right.
That's our goal every year, you know, and we'll get it. We'll get it someday, and hopefully it will be this year. But it doesn't matter what our team looks like. That's our ultimate goal, or those two goals are ultimate goals.
Yeah. All right. Well, Coach Mahung, good luck to you guys. I look forward to seeing the season, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you guys around and chatting with you during the course of the year. And it's always a lot of fun. I enjoy speaking to you.
Same here.
All right. Well, that was Coach Ken Mahung, head coach of the Glasgow Scotties. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, as Glasgow girls soccer coach Scott Zettlemoyer is making his way in here, I'm going to take a few minutes here to kind of keep you guys, or get you guys up to date on what went down Thursday during the KHSAA Board of Control meeting, what they ended up deciding to do, and then follow that up with the reports from the Governor Andy Beshear briefing today. The bottom line is, the leading up to Thursday, the deal was we were basically on a schedule whereby fall sports practice could start today, September 24th, and then the first competitions of the fall, other than golf, would begin September 7th. So that'd be September 7th would be volleyball, soccer in our area, and field hockey, which I don't know if anyone around here actually plays field hockey. And then the first football games would be the following Friday, September the 11th. And so that's what the KHSAA Board of Control had agreed to prior, back in, I think it was July 28th, whenever they had a meeting. And so what they were basically doing on August 20th, which was Thursday, was having a meeting to review whether they were going to go forward with that plan or if they were going to follow some other options. And Commissioner Julian Tackett put three options on the table, basically. Option 2 would have basically followed the governor's recommendation, which was to not start school until September 28th. And then that option would have backed up fall sports till September 28th. And then option 3 was what I think Tackett referred to as a hybrid plan. So then your outdoor, your non-contact sports would get to go ahead and start on the 24th, and then your contact sports would be pushed back to the 28th. The option 2 vote by the Board of Control failed. I think it was 16-2, and then the option 3 vote failed 15-3, and so they basically went with option 1, which was do as they were doing. Which then, but the thing is that all of those things, because the KHSAA is an arm of the state government to some degree, as I'm not exactly sure, a subsidiary would be the wrong thing, but if you're thinking of it in business terms, subsidiary of the Board of Education, which means whatever they decide to do still has to be approved by, your state government and that kind of thing. And that led a whole bunch of people to have palpitations over the weekend about whether or not Governor Beshear would end fall sports, to the point that people started their own hashtag about let them play, and, went and stood at the Capitol, I think, the day, and that kind of thing. And the thing is that I don't know. I really, from the get-go, I kind of felt like that whenever the governor put forth the recommendation and not a mandate that schools start September 28th, he was leaving the door open for organizations and school districts to make their own decisions. That doesn't mean he's necessarily going to be happy with that because he's put forth a recommendation, but it also means that he's probably going to let those boards make their decision, or, the school boards or the Board of Control for the KHSAA to make its own decisions. And that's basically what we've seen. So, Barron County Schools started again today, and they're doing a staggered schedule. So A to J is on going some certain days, and then K through Z are going on other days for the high school and middle school. And then Glasgow's doing the online only. They're not in person in school. And so, your different boards of education have made their own decisions about their school districts. And the KHSAA Board of Control, when I was watching the Zoom call on Thursday, it struck me that many of the members of the Board of Control are from rural or non-urban areas. And many of those school districts it appears to have made the decision they were started back today, or I think in the case of Greene County, maybe started back last week, I think it was. And so I would say they were influenced by what their boards of education, the decisions they had made at a local level, and then they brought that to the Board of Control, which is why they went ahead and went with option one. That's my opinion. And it's also, I think, why today at the meeting, the governor said he did not see that they would deny the Board of Control's request to start fall sports. And there you have it. I think that's pretty much the bottom line, is there's much more local control being asserted in school districts, and thereby being asserted by the Board of Control. And so we have fall sports. And fall sports, the practices could start today. We just heard Coach Mahung talking about, they started their practices this morning, and football practices are going on probably even as I speak, and other fall sports practices are going on. I would say, though, that much of this is still going to be a product of people following the guidelines, wearing masks, doing their best to social distance, and if there's lots of outbreaks, I'd say this whole situation could change, and that's one thing I think that Julian Tackett has stressed in every one of the Zoom meetings I've listened to since May, is that flexibility is the key in 2020. It's a different year, it's a different animal, and it's a different thing that we have to look at, and that sometimes each sport won't be treated the same because of different issues that may arise, and different school districts may make different decisions based on the situations that arise for them. And, if we've been given the opportunity to move on with our lives, so to speak, and now we have the opportunity to make the best of it. And hopefully we make the best of it by following the guidelines and recommendations that have been issued by medical professionals, and we get to have fall sports because we do that. Basically, at this point, we've all been asked to be grown-ups, and I guess that's what we will see. Meanwhile, high school golf has continued on, and there have been very few issues. It's an outdoor sport. It's pretty easy to social distance. The crowds aren't real large at a high school's golf event. It's players and parents and a few coaches, and that's pretty much the extent of it. And that's been very helpful. And so that could be the crowd sizes and that kind of thing will probably be mandated either by the school districts or by the state for sporting events. And so we're going to see how that pans out, and keep our fingers crossed that everything goes well. That's That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking forward to covering some high school sports. Been covering some golf. You can get that over at 104thescore.com. There's Scott now. And then, whenever the soccer gets started and the football gets started and the cross country gets started, we'll be covering that too. All right, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back with Glasgow Lady Scotties soccer coach Scott Zettlemoyer.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're back. Scott Zettlemoyer here, Glasgow Lady Scotties head soccer coach. Scott, this is your third season coming in? Or fourth?
Third as head coach, fourth just coaching the girls in general.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you were an assistant with Sean 1 year, is that correct? Yeah. All right. So I guess I'm going to start with some of the same questions I asked Ken, seeing as how this is your first official day of practice. You guys have basically been able to do workouts since, really going back to like June 15th if you wanted to, but yeah. I'm sure that would have been difficult to pull off the whole summer.
It's been a difficult summer to get the workouts in, but the girls have been willing and able, and they've been putting in the work. So I think they're excited that today is our first real practice, and they get to get out there and start having some fun today.
Yeah. And I guess even though Glasgow's not technically in school in the building, which probably affects things some, I imagine just the fact that you guys school has started back, and we know by the KHSAA stuff and what the governor said today, we're going to have fall sports. I imagine you're feeling a little bit more like they're a little more engaged now.
Yeah, numbers haven't been what I would have expected them to be just because of everything that's going on, which is understandable. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I feel like that since we know we're going to have a season, I feel like the girls are going to buy in a little bit more, and we may get some new girls come in that normally wouldn't have showed up, and I feel like we'll be ready to go for our first game on the 7th.
Yeah, and you actually open on the 7th. I think everybody else is basically playing on the 8th around here. Mm-hmm. And you open up with Clinton County, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we originally we were going to play them, I think later on in the September dates or something, and since Class A is that weekend, we have to get that qualifier in before Class A.
Gotcha. And the district setup is a little different this year as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, It's just us, Barron, and Allen, but Allen doesn't have a team this year, so it's just us and Barron right now.
Okay, well,
so
you guys can play each other 6 times if you want.
I guess we probably could if we wanted to.
Well, I was just looking at your schedule that was online, and it's a little sparse.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's been some running around to try to restructure the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the games that we have scheduled, I mean, were already previously scheduled, so we didn't have to really change much of that. But the issue is we were waiting to see what would happen with Class A, so we have to leave X amount of games open for Class A, so we aren't able to schedule 11 other games and then only be able to play 3 Class A games, because if you make it to Class A state, it's like 6 games, so there's half of your schedule right there.
Yeah, so then how are you – does that mean that you're going to be looking at some flexibility once the season starts, or, I mean, once – like basically from here forward, try to figure out some games that you may wind up wedging in here that aren't visible at the moment?
I'm still in talks with some coaches trying to figure out, okay, can we play on this day or can we play on this day? And I feel like it's going to change with a lot of them, because I feel like with everything that's going on in the world, teams might just completely shut down their programs or things like that, and coaches lose games, and you can fit into those. So, I mean, if for some reason we didn't make it into state, then I feel like I have a good enough relationship with a lot of the local coaches that we could figure out some type of scheduling and figure out where to fill in those games.
So I guess parents and players shouldn't be surprised that you called them on a Tuesday and said, "Hey, we got a game on Thursday."
Yeah,
I mean, it could work because you mentioned, the possibility that a program may have to be suspended for 14 days or 10 days or whatever that number may be, and so there may be a team that's like had a game on Thursday and now they don't or whatever. I mean, that could happen this year, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, anything's possible, especially with everything that's going on right now. So, Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could probably schedule a game in 2 or 3 days, and the girls should be ready to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the message so far this year is be patient and be prepared for just about anything.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is this year. That's what I've told them. I was like, yeah, we have to be optimistic, because if we're not going to be optimistic about it, then we're not going to be prepared for it. So we have to be ready and know that everything's going to end up panning out and that we'll be ready for the season to start.
You know, that's one of the things a lot of coaches I talked to, over the last couple of months, I mean, they've basically, that's been their message to their players and whatnot is you just take care of what you can take care of, prepare like it's going to happen, and if it doesn't, okay, but don't shortchange yourself.
That's one thing that I've definitely had to try and get in the girls' heads, and I feel like the past week or so they've really kind of bought into it a little bit more. They've been putting in a little bit more effort in the practices. Passes aren't what I would want them to be. Like, we aren't able to really do what we want. So it's just trying to make sure that we're able to play the style that we want to play and be good enough come the first week of games.
Yeah. Now, on your returning roster, I mean, I'd say the biggest loss will be Paige Bird at goalie for you. She had a pretty spectacular senior year.
All those seniors are going to be a tough loss, to be completely honest, whether they really carried their weight on the field or they carried their weight on the bench or like things like that. They were able to bring the girls together and be the glue of the team. Paige is a big loss, but losing goals and assists from Dinah and Emma and just the repertoire of like Macy and Olivia and Juliana and all those girls, it's just those are going to be some big losses. But yeah, definitely probably the biggest loss right now is Paige Bird, because I'm still maybe struggling for a goalkeeper right now, but we'll see what we can do.
But I imagine, because you mentioned your senior players, your leaders on the team have been showing up for the workouts. And so, I mean, let's talk about them a little bit. What kind of tone are they setting? Who are they and what kind of tone are they setting?
The girls, in all honesty, that I think that have really been stepping up this offseason are Hayden Botts, even though Hayden Botts has such a high bar for her intensity and her work ethic. She still shows up every day and puts in work. Carly Murphy, AC Page, Bree Mosier, Carrie Vaught, all of those girls have also been putting in all the work that they can possibly do. I'm probably going to get yelled at when I get to practice because I'm probably going to forget one of their names. But, I mean, in all honesty, all of them have been putting in tremendous amounts of work. When they're there, they're working their butt off every single time we're doing anything.
Yeah. And even with the peculiarity of this particular season, what are your expectations for your team this year?
I think that if we have the girls show up and they are willing to work as hard as they could be, then I feel like we have a good chance at winning district and maybe putting some damage on in the region this season. Just also it's going to depend upon how everything falls this year. I know that Barron County is probably the favorite in our district just because it's just the two of us, but I honestly feel like they're a really solid team. They have a lot of returning players. They have some good upcoming players that are going to be freshmen this year, and I just feel like they're a team that could probably do some damage in the region as well. But of course, you can't low change yourself. I mean, you want to be able to go out there and win district and go into region, win a couple games, and maybe get to the region championship.
It's probably a little early to answer this question, but the returning players that you do have, are they still a little stung by how the district championship worked out for you guys last year? Are you?
It was a heartbreaker. I'm not gonna lie.
It was a heck of a game for somebody who spectates.
Yes, I mean if you're just wanting to watch a game and it was an enjoyable game to watch, I completely agree with that. But it hurt just because we had prepared and we had done so well all season, and a couple little mistakes there at the end, whether it be just us making mistakes or just lack of thought, it just led to the wrong thing, even by me, because the way we set up for certain free kicks, I tell them to do something different, and that's the reason, one of the reasons we got that late goal and we lost.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's a tough thing for a coach to have to deal with, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely. My brother makes sure to keep me humble usually, but that experience there was enough to humble me myself.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of reflecting this offseason in myself and how I coach, and trying to make sure that I'm getting the best that I can out of the girls. Not only that the girls are getting the best out of themselves, but that I'm making sure that I'm getting the best out of them.
Yeah. Well, Scott, I look forward to the season. I think it'll be a lot of fun. You guys were a lot of fun to cover last year. Really exciting players. They seemed to be really excited to be there pretty much every day. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Anything else you can think of as you guys get ready to kick off?
I guess the only other thing I think of is our first home game is – what's that date? September 8th against Warren East. If you want to come out and watch us, come out and watch us.
Yep.
Also, if there are any high school girls or even some 7th and 8th grade girls that are interested in playing, come on out, get me a physical, and we'll see what we can do with y'all. All
right. Sounds good, Scott. Well, that's Scott Zettlemoyer, Glasgow Lady Scotties soccer coach, not golf, soccer coach. And this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's in Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, we're back. John Butler's on the line with us here. John, I wanted to let's talk a little bit about some baseball, because I wanted to get your perspective on some things that occurred last week, and then maybe we'll wrap up and I'll ask you, your opinion on the KHSAA stuff. But let's talk about this Fernando Tatis grand slam with 3 walks and no strikes in the 8th inning.
3 balls and no strikes.
Yes, 3 balls and no strikes. Yeah, not 3 walks, 3 balls. What did you think about that?
I thought it was unfair criticism, to be perfectly honest with you. The only thing that was fair was that he ignored the coach's sign. They gave him the take sign.
Yeah.
And either he ignored it or didn't see it, one of the two. And that's if he ignored it, then he ought to be punished by the club. I can't handle that at all.
Right.
But if other than that, I mean, I'm not for sure why they would give him the take. I know is the 8th inning, but it's a 7-run game, and it's not like it was a 15-run game. And last I checked with baseball, there is no there's not a time limit. That you play 9 innings.
Yeah.
And there's San Diego bullpen is not the greatest bullpen in the world either. So I'm not really for sure what the difference is swinging 3. It'd been okay if it's 2-0 he hit a grand slam. It'd been okay if it's 3-1 he hit a grand slam, but 3-0, I think that's a little bit over the top in this kind of crazy unwritten rule things that we're going through in baseball.
Well, and that was my exact response, because the first thing I looked at was I was like, wait, what inning was it? It wasn't the bottom of the 9th?
No.
I guess it wouldn't have been the bottom of the 9th.
No, I mean, it wasn't the top of the 9th. No, it wouldn't. Yeah. It wasn't even the top of the 9th. No.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, 7 runs in Major League Baseball is not really a lot.
No, it's not. And then just the next day, he took some more heat for stealing 3rd in the 4th inning when they were up 8 or 9 or something.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's baseball is a little ridiculous on a lot of their unwritten rules and what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And at that level, when you're dealing with professional players, they're getting paid to hit and they're getting paid to pitch, and I think you let them play. This is not high school where somebody's up 22-2 and there's a complete obvious talent difference, or basketball when you're up 40 with 3 minutes to go. All those things are totally different situations. When you're dealing with the pros, he gets paid to hit, and the other guy gets paid to get him out.
Right. Well, and that's kind of, going back to did he ignore the take sign or not? You're right. I mean, if he did, I mean, I
Yeah,
feel
that's
like,
different.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't feel like his manager. I felt like his manager was kind of unfair in the post-game press.
I did too. I was surprised. I mean, now here's the good and the bad. The good part of it is the manager at least had the courage to criticize a young superstar. And you don't see that very often. You know, they're treated with kid gloves, and this is a young manager, and he was very critical of him, and I guess he thought it was a little bit unsportsmanlike to do that, and I think he was also a little irritated that he ignored his sign.
Yeah.
But you rarely see any superstars in professional sports, sometimes even in college sports, get criticized at all by their managers or by their coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that part was at least something.
Well, and I understood that the criticism of him ignoring the take sign. It was the second part of the criticism where we don't do that, blah blah blah. I
don't buy that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Also, if I am a coach, I feel like I want players who play with a desire to win at all the time, not just sometimes.
I do too. And I'll just add this point. If you think it's that bad that you're rubbing it in, now that's just a little side note. One of his best friends was the manager of the other team. He coached with him in the past.
Oh, okay.
But if you think it's that bad, then won't you take your best players out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But take your best players out at the end of the game, and let somebody else play who probably can't hit a grand slam.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, John. I mean, you are the manager of the squad. You could sit the guy down. You've got all these people that you could be playing if you just know that you're going to win that game. But
I agree.
I go back to the fact that it's baseball, and a baseball game's not over until that third out in the bottom of the ninth.
It is, and I just think it's a bad message. You ought to be proud of your team for playing hard the whole way.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the message at all, and the only thing that I'll criticize the player for is ignoring or not seeing the take sign.
Yeah, and I guess my one last thing on this is that I don't really get why. I don't really get the unwritten rules of baseball thing. Like, that's like the thing that's always a mystery to me, no matter what. I just don't understand. You just play the game to win the game, and as you mentioned, these are paid professionals, and if you can't get the guy out, well, maybe you shouldn't be a paid professional. Maybe somebody else should be.
That's right. I mean, it's not T-ball.
Yeah, that's right. So, real quick, let's talk a little bit about the KHSAA decision on Thursday. I know I talked about it in an earlier segment, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this. We saw the vote that they decided to go on with what they had decided they were going to do back in July. And to present that option 1, practices started today. First games September 7th for volleyball and soccer, cross country, and then football on September the 11th. And I thought it was kind of telling to me that there were a couple of things that were kind of telling actually during the Zoom call. One was that the votes against it were basically the AD from the Jefferson County Public Schools, and I think the other one was from Northern Kentucky.
Yes.
And what struck me about that was the Jefferson Public Schools Board of Education, I think even the day or 2 days before that, had already said there was a good chance they might not have fall sports.
They vote tonight.
They vote tonight. And, I'm curious.
So does Fayette County, by the way.
Yes. And I think maybe you and I had talked about this, but not on air, that I'd heard there was a chance that even Fayette County was considering not doing fall sports.
Yes, I think there's a good chance they vote tonight.
Uh-huh.
I can't imagine. I'll be surprised, even with Jefferson County. I just would be surprised that they're going to go out on an island on their own, and it would just. I don't know how they're going to be able to withstand. They're not playing, and every county around them is playing, and all the counties in Indiana are playing.
Yeah.
I think that's whatever you think about that. It doesn't seem all that fair for the players within Jefferson County or perhaps Fayette County. That's I'd be looking, perhaps if I was really, really good going in my senior year, I may be looking to go somewhere else if I could.
Yeah, And I think I think that's part of why the worm seems to have turned in Jefferson County from last Tuesday, is that we do see a lot of people talking about, well, they'll just move their children elsewhere. And
one of the things is it's one thing. It's one thing in terms of popularity not to have your schools open. Mm-hmm. You're going to have about a 50-50 split on whether people think that's right or not right. When you come down to shutting athletics down, that number jumps to about 80-20.
Yeah, it does.
Because most people believe that that kids should have a right to play. Now, the health part's a big issue. I mean, it's a big issue, but I'll just be honest with you. I mean, they're playing AAU sports. They're doing a lot of travel ball, and I think you can make the argument that at least schools can make it as safer than where they can do other things. And I just don't know how many more hits that people can take, especially young people, and in Jefferson County, I would just look at it from, and if I was in Jefferson County, do we want our kids organized and try to make it as safe as possible, or do we just want to shut it down and then you don't know what they're going to get into?
Well, and one of the board members made a post, I think it was either on Facebook or Twitter, I think I saw it on Twitter, talking about the decision is this: those parents who have the wherewithal can take their children and do something else.
Right.
It's the ones who do not, that they have to really think about how they are, what they are taking away from them if they don't have the fall sports.
It's a tough call. I mean, it really is. It's a tough call because high schools do not have the testing. They don't have any of that other stuff at all. But I've gone back and forth on, a lot of these things. But in terms of, I just think the overall benefit for young people, and coaches have more of an option not to coach. I mean, you can survive without that small $2,000, assistant stipend, if you don't want to do that, if you're not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And I just think overall that the mental and health benefits is probably worth the try for the kids to try to play.
One of the things I do worry about, though, is that even if they do play, I do worry about the participation numbers, especially if school is not in, if it is, all online. And
yeah, I know. I mean, that's getting the kids there. I know that's listen, there are any option you go, there's going to be about 100 problems with.
Yeah, you're right. Well, and I guess what I'm getting at is that combined with if there are some mandated shutdowns because of positive tests, of that kind of thing, also the possibility that there will be shutdowns of specific programs just at some schools just because they don't have enough.
No, there's no question. I mean, there's no question that I don't even know if it'll work. I mean, you're exactly right. Who knows? If if a football team gets it, does it spread everywhere? I mean, I don't know. The only thing I know of is I'm so tired of COVID. I can't.
You, me, and everyone else, I'm pretty sure at this point.
That's exactly right. I think it's the one thing that we can all unify behind.
Yeah.
There's no controversy over that. I think we're all tired of it.
Well, let me say that I expected the KHSAA to take the vote that it did and pass the option that it did on Thursday as I sat there watching the faces on the Zoom call. And
I was impressed with the people on the board. I thought they were very thoughtful for the most part. I watched it too. I thought they gave some good comments.
Yeah, and so I'm glad they went with that option. I'm glad we're going to try this. And, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But, I mean, there's no harm necessarily in trying it, in my opinion. Well,
probably not. I mean, that's true. I agree.
This is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.